Is this Trump election the backlash to liberal feminism? Have men finally had enough of being demonised and emasculated? Even in Australia, polling showed that majority men under 30 are in favour of Trump. A widening political divide between young people, young men are moving to the right and young women are moving to the left. An army of angry young liberal women broken up with their boyfriends and husbands because they voted for Trump, some even claiming to have sterilised themselves or becoming romantically involved with other women and shaving their heads. This stuff is crazy. They've lost their minds. Left-leaning young women are suffering a mental health crisis. The surveys reckon over half between the ages of 18 to 29 in America have a mental health diagnosis, and a third of them identify as LGBTIQA+. They are the most unhappy and mentally unwell demographic in the United States. The data appears to bear out that women have been sold a furphy, selling the girl boss narrative and pretending that marriage, family, community are not fundamental to happier life outcomes. Have you heard of the 4B movement? It originated in South Korea. Women swear off men, rejecting relationships with men and having children. Bizarrely, this lefty activist movement is actually growing. But what about the men? 43% of Australian men under 30 would vote for Trump. Are we surprised? Men and boys, particularly those who are white, heterosexual, cis, or do not buy into the gender wang, are fed a steady stream of shame and guilt for being what they are. We have a generation of lost boys, disconnected from life, but glued to their screens for gaming and porn, directionless and without ambition. It's a very real concern for parents of boys. Personally, I don't have an issue with this move to conservatism with young men. I am a mother of daughters, and I don't want to see my own girls bringing home some milquetoast, man-bunned, non-binary who will expect her to bring home half the bacon even while she is in her childbearing years. Phyllis Schlafly tried to warn us. If women want to work, we would just end up doing the second shift. And our very young children being farmed out to industrial childcare by the lowest paid workers and delivered into the hands of the state simply so we can manage to afford a big city mortgage. Research bears out that children under the age of 3 should not be separated from their mother or primary caregiver. When they are, it results in problems later in childhood. Hard truths that we as a society should be facing up to. We messed with the relationship between men and women at our peril, and it appears there is a correlation afoot. When men were emasculated, when feminism shamed men for being male, there was always going to be a reckoning. And with Trump, it appears that time has come. Even considering the music of the two different campaigns, Trump harking back to the best of the 70s and 80s classics, YMCA, Fortunate Son, and Son of a Preacher Man. Kamala featured Beyonce, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, J-Lo, and Katy Perry. And the hypersexualized, twerking, girl boss theme fell flat. And I, for one, am glad about that. The message being sent to young girls, like my daughters, that the path to happiness is your sexual availability to men, consumerism, impossible standards of beauty, and conquering the world is clearly a lie. It's not working. Clearly not working. Not when girls are in such acute mental distress. Men being demonised, with huge swings amongst black men, Hispanic men, young men, and majority white men voting for Trump. Those of us who have men in our lives who we love, our brothers, husbands, fathers, sons, our colleagues and friends, can see that many men are struggling, and it's likely many of the women who voted for Trump don't like to see their menfolk demonised either. Kamala's entire platform was "I hate Trump, and anyone who doesn't is a fascist." Joy, an abortion free-for-all, and that she had the biggest cuck of them all, Tampon Tim, as her running mate. That was never going to get her over the line. But Trump, who put forward Elon, Vivek, RFK and JD Vance, all real men. Men who have succeeded in their own right, men who have been or are married and have children and grandchildren of their own. The appeal of this to young men cannot be underestimated. What young man would not want to be wealthy, successful, with children of his own, and an attractive and supportive wife on his arm? Kamala does not have children, and her stepchildren fall into that category of sad, woke liberals, angry at the world. Trump tapped into that backlash against woke. He started campaigning as soon as he lost the White House. One of his first speeches was against men in women's sports. In 2016, like many, I was a never Trumper. By 2020, I was witnessing many women who did not align with the Republicans choosing to vote for Trump solely because he openly said he would protect women's sex-based rights. The woke claims to be all for gender equality, but it's actually gender blindness. Unless, of course, it's celebrating the men who want to perform highly regressive stereotypes of femininity. And of course, the guilt and shame being heaped with white, cis, straight males, being told they are the oppressors whilst being the Democratic with the least amount of support. Don't believe me? In the UK, the demographic failing the most in education are white British boys, all the while being told that they are the oppressors, the most privileged, and the epidemic of male suicide, which is mocked and derided by some feminists. Little boys are even being forced to apologise for their sex and their race, being told because they are white boys, they are predators and they are abusers. And let's not forget the men who willingly do dangerous, dirty, physically demanding jobs to feed their families. The garbage men, the truck drivers, police officers, the oil rig workers, tree loppers. Not many women would want to come home dirty, smelly, covered in wood chips and ticks after being rigged into a tree with a 20-kilo chainsaw all day. But these are the jobs that men do to keep society moving. If every single inclusion and diversity manager got fired, or social media associate got fired, the world would continue on. But many men do these jobs gladly and have pride in being able to provide for their families. The degendering of society and the breakdown of relationships between the sexes has not served us well. Porn, social media, and COVID lockdowns have robbed the current generation of figuring out the relationship between the sexes. So I, for one, as a girl mum, am pleased to see the movement of boys towards conservatism. Perhaps this will assist young men in being willing again to take pride in being a father, a husband, and a successful and contributing member of society. Who would want their daughter to become one of these liberal women casualties with a mental health diagnosis or having to work in a job she hates and putting her young children in industrial daycare because she has to do it to pay the bills? Maybe why so many are celebrating the Trump win are actually seeing the tide coming back to normality. Back to the things that traditionally make us happy: children, family, and community. And there's nothing wrong with any of this. Make America great again? That's just part of it. What about making the world normal again? Yes, I hear you say.